Hello and welcome back to another independent artist vlog or unemployed artist vlog. I'm still either unemployed or going independent. So welcome back to another independent artist vlog, unemployed artist vlog. I don't know what it is at this point, but for the past few months I've been, of course unemployed, as most of you have seen from my previous videos, but it's been probably a few months by now. It's actually been about 6 months now since I've been unemployed, and at this point I am not sure if I should just continue labeling myself as an unemployed artist or a independent artist, because I pretty much have been making enough to support myself and make a living on my own ever since I wrapped on my last full-time 9-to-5 animation industry job. So yeah, for those of you who need any more additional context, please check out the videos down in the information box below for why I'm unemployed, what I'm thinking about doing as my next steps on becoming an independent artist. So that's why in today's video, I wanted to briefly talk about the pros and cons of being full-time versus independent. Which one is better? But ultimately it really comes down to which one is better for you. I don't think that, there's a universal better option out there. It's all really going to be catered to your specific situation and needs, and there will be some things that a full-time job can provide that an independent one can't, and some that an independent can that a full-time cannot. So first and foremost, one of the things that I've always wanted to kind of talk about and say is that being a full-time artist is great for starting off in, any sort of job. I think that it is something you should try before you decide to go fully independent, just to make sure that, this is not for you, and you can always build some sort of financial stability through working a full-time job for the first few years, so that you kind of build your runway to take off as an independent artist. And that is kind of my situation. So for the past 5 years or so after I graduated art school, I pretty much pursued storyboarding in the animation industry in Los Angeles, and that has been a great ride. The only reason why it stopped is because there really has been not many job opportunities available ever since, the writers and actors strike, and I wrapped up on my project around the end of March, and around 2 to 3 months later, the whole strike situation happened. On top of the fact that I already feel like the industry was moving at a somewhat slower pace with job opportunities compared to the times of COVID. So there were just a lot of things that told me that, I should continue trying to get on this independent artist route now while I have the time to, because who knows if I'll ever receive the temptations of a full-time stable 9-to-5 job again. But, just so you know, it hasn't always been easy navigating this path of an independent artist alone. I feel like a lot of the times, most of my insecurities kind of stem from feeling like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough to work in the animation industry again, or maybe I'm not worthy enough, or something like that, because you feel like you have the validation and acceptance of people who have had years of professional experience and have worked on all of these projects. And I know it's silly that I even think about that, considering that throughout the past 5 years I've worked on like 6 to 7 animated projects, even had the honor of assistant directing on one of them. But of course, during times of being unemployed and you just don't receive any sort of validation from anyone, you can't help but wonder if you're just not that good. So obviously I took some time to dive a little bit deeper into those feelings, and I have been doing that, by the way, for the past 5 years as well, because even when I work in the animation industry, I still feel these feelings of feeling like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough, or having imposter syndrome. So that's when I realized to myself how much I have tied my own worth to working at a studio, a company, and needing the validation of the corporate world to feel validated. And the thing that really helps me is just having friends that are not just in the animation industry. Coming from New York, I have plenty of friends that are from the actual corporate America. Even though animation is still very much a corporate job, it is not as traditionally corporate in many other ways. But I think spending a lot of time with people who are not just animators or artists working in an industry has definitely helped me a lot. And also just witnessing the journeys of other independent artists online, and not just independent artists either, but vloggers, YouTubers, streamers, seeing all the ways that other people just make a living and support themselves. I just thought to myself, what does it matter where I work, what company I work for, what studio I work for, if I'm not happy and living my life the way that I want to? And the funny thing is that even when I work a full-time animation corporate job, I still always looked at the other people working, in YouTube or Instagram, doing their own independent thing and still wanting parts of what they had. And I would say that my desire to become an independent artist from watching other people online felt greater than the feeling I feel now as an independent artist looking at full-time artists in the animation industry. And honestly, I just think it's a generational thing where a lot of people who are younger than us now aspire to become online creators. And for me, I was born on the cusp of being Gen Z to millennial. So I kind of saw that transition of, technology. And I remembered growing up, I was into the Renaissance era of animation, Disney films, and anime. And after watching that stuff, I thought that that's what I wanted to do in the future. I wanted to create the same exact thing. But nowadays, the animation industry is no longer the same one that I saw when I was, a little kid. And I think coming to terms with that helped me realize that, this is what I wanted to do when I was a kid, and maybe it's not something I want to do anymore. I still want to be an artist, working in art, doing art-related stuff, and I still do wish to have some sort of connection with the animation industry, which is why I want to freely be able to go in and out of animation projects as they arise. So I don't necessarily think I'm cutting off my ties with the animation industry. It's just more so I'm opening up my heart to other possibilities in life beyond just animation now. Anyway, one of the pros that I do have to say about becoming an independent artist is I have a nail appointment that I have to go to, and it's 10 a.m. on a Thursday. Normally at this time, I would probably be working on a storyboard or working on a thumbnail pass or pitching to somebody, but today I am getting a fucking nail appointment. I might as well use this time before I leave to talk about one of the pros of becoming an independent artist, of course, is being able to do things on your own time. Honestly, I'll say the freedom of choice to do whatever you want on a regular workday is extremely liberating. And I know I might sound like one of those hustle culture people when I say something like that, but I do feel like there is some truth to that when it comes to being an independent artist, and when you do develop enough of some sort of financial stability as an independent artist, that you have more flexibility to do what you want with your own time. Like, sure, usually working a full-time animation job is not always as strict as other corporate jobs out there in terms of controlling your time, but there is still some level of needing to report to people, being on call, and attending meetings that you might not even have to be a part of. So for me, of course, I enjoy doing things on my own time, but I also enjoy having that extra availability of time to work on my own projects, things, ideas, and also just focus on my mental health and physical well-being, because I just don't think that's something that we should have to negotiate for as a living human being. And now I'm trying to focus on things like having prettier hands, because I don't think there's anything wrong with my hands, but at the same time, I'm not the type to usually do anything more to them. I'm starting to try to wear rings, but also on top of that, I figured that if I ever were to do future sketchbook videos where I draw for y'all again and just start like doing like a sketchbook of my travels or some sort of sketchbook situation where I do a draw with me, I've just felt like I never had the most impressive hands, so why not start doing something with them? Not just for that, but also for myself. Anyway, time to call my Uber to go get my nails done. All right, let's go. Another one of the things I really enjoy about being an independent artist is, of course, the fact that you can pretty much work from anywhere. And in this case, it's a nail appointment.
Yeah, I'm here a little early, but I have an appointment at 10:30 for Michelle.
Michelle,
Yes.
already for the bliss pedicure and bliss gel manicure, right? Already love. Choose your color. I'll have you see.
Okay, thank you so much.
What I would usually spend money on to either commute to work or for my car/gas to work is now instead being spent on things that I actually care about and things that interest me, and it helps eliminate the stuff that really does not matter. There's actually a really cool opportunity I have coming up, and I couldn't be happier responding to that email at a nail appointment.
I also forgot to mention that I'm also getting a haircut. So my hair is of course still short, but it's getting to the point where it's kind of becoming like a cutesy bob, which is cute, but I kind of miss that like extra short chic look, so I'm gonna go get a trim too. No, I'm good. Okay, thank you so much.
And finally, the moment of truth. So here is my new haircut. I really think it's so cute. It's so chic and modern. I feel like Yayoi Kusama's granddaughter. This is a lot shorter than the last time I did it. However, I did want to go with something a little bit more chic, sleek, modern, because I thought my other bob was like really cute, but I wanted something more defined. And here are the nails. But I did want to mention that the reason why I am getting so done up in this video is because I actually am going to Vancouver this weekend, and it's gonna be a little bit of a couple's getaway with me and my boyfriend. Some of the pros of being an independent artist is, of course, you don't have a pay cap. So the thing about working full-time when you're in a studio is that usually there's going to eventually be a pay cap in how much you can get paid. And as a storyboard artist or even a director, there's gonna be a certain amount you can make up to. And then from that point onward, it might be hard to continue increasing your pay. And I will say, for the most part, working in animation, usually for the unionized studios, they are already a pretty decent pay. Like, it'll most likely be 6 figures. But when you are working independently, there's no pay cap. It's really up to you how much money you want to continue making. Of course, the more you work, well, I wouldn't say the more you work, the more money you make, because nowadays a lot of people find ways to make their work more efficient. So I will definitely say that if you are working for yourself, it's really up to you when you feel like you're making enough money and when you want to tone things down. But when you are working a full-time job, you're most likely going to be working under a certain, like, a point where you won't really be making that much more anymore after you've reached your like highest point, other than when inflation happens. But you know, when inflation happens, it's like everything else is already more expensive. I also wanted to share with you that I did start my storyboarding course that, you know, I will eventually be posting somewhere. I don't know where yet, but I just started doing like thumbnails for a script that we're going to be using as the example for the course. So stay tuned if you would like to hear more about the upcoming storyboarding course. In addition to that, I just wanted to also share a package that I received in the mail from Kirumade. I think that's how they're called. I've basically done a collaboration with Kirumade, and the branch I've been working with is called Ad Artem, and we did a little collab with my artwork on their clothing, and thus this is a shirt that I designed with Kirumade. Oh my gosh, the quality is so nice on this. So basically the clothing that I've done with Kirumade or Ad Artem are specifically done under Japanese streetwear specs. So there's a lot more options that you can choose on the store online. You can choose a hoodie, a bag, or other t-shirts, and this is the one that they sent to me. It's basically the long sleeved tee, and I'm gonna try it on. But yeah, I definitely feel like this design is super interesting and cool, where you can do something down here. Then you also have a little emblem patch here. And if you just like the emblem patch, and if you like the one of just Miu, there's also one of her, and also like a little thirsty bitch headshot version. So if you are interested in any like Japanese streetwear styled merch from me, definitely check them out on kirumade/adartum. The links will be down below, and I'm really excited to have a new line of apparel merch. Do any of you guys eat sundobu or sun tofu soup? This is kind of like what I make whenever I'm too lazy to make an elaborate meal, so I just make myself some stew with tofu and vegetables. So of course, you've probably heard this from many other people before, but one of the other pros is just simply having more time to spend with your family and friends. And you know, most people might be like, well, don't your family and friends also work? So it's not like you can really hang out with them on your schedule if they're busy. But I guess the way I think about it is that, you know, I can organize my life and my time the way that I want to, so that, you know, when the time comes where they offer to hang out or there is availability to hang out on a weekday, it's like it pretty much won't be an inconvenience for me, and I am able to tailor myself more to their schedule a little bit more so that I can make these hangouts more possible. And it's been really cool because I've been becoming friends with my neighbors next door here, and it's just been really nice to kind of feel like we're back in the college days. Because I just remember during the times I was at CalArts, anytime we worked on stuff and I wanted to hang out with my friends, I would always just feel so guilty that I wasn't working on my film, and that feeling kind of follows you into working for a studio. And I just got really sick and tired of that feeling, and I know that there are ways to not feel guilty while still having a healthy work-life balance, but I just feel like it makes things a lot less difficult when you do just work a job that gives you that flexibility from the get-go. But I would also say that some of the things I do not miss about working in a full-time job is definitely bad leadership, working on a bad team, disorganized teams. I've had a lot of really great animation jobs, I will say, and I feel very lucky and privileged to have had that experience. But the biggest con, I would say, for the studios where I did have a somewhat bad experience at was probably just the fact that there was a lot of disorganization, and a lot of the times you just didn't know what was going on. But when I work for myself, you know, I'm still working with other companies, but for the most part, it's not like you're with them forever and for such a long time that you have to deal with any of the chaos. Like usually whenever I work with like brand deals and stuff, they are pretty short term. And when I'm working with my graphic novel, which definitely is more long term, there is still disorganization and chaos in that area. But I feel like because you're not a full-time employee at like the publishing house or anything, you have a lot more separation and distance from any of the workplace drama, any of like bad leadership. You're really just working in a small, intimate team that is really trying to cater towards your creativity and your ideas. There are going to be instances where you might be placed on a bad team because no matter where you go in life, there's going to be bad apples everywhere. To kind of add on top of that, a lot of the times too, you might be placed on a project that you're actually not that passionate about. For example, I've been placed on shows where the style of it doesn't really align with my tastes. Sometimes the story doesn't, but I also have been on a handful of shows that do align with it. But you know, it can always be a mix and match. You could be on a show that you really like. You could be on a project that you really vibe with stylistically, but maybe the team itself does not work out with you. Or you could be on a team that really works out for you, but the style of the show is not your thing. So you kind of have these little like pick and choose your poisons, which also does exist as being an independent artist. But I would say the thing, at least about being an independent artist, is that it's what you want to do that drives the rest of your opportunities that come up. But of course, with that also comes a lot more work from the forefront. And a lot of people think that if you're an artist, if you just get a job in animation, you're so passionate about it because you love drawing. But it's like, no, it's what you enjoy drawing that makes you passionate, not like just working on some other person's stuff that maybe you might not be vibing with that makes you passionate. Because I do feel like people do feel passionate about the art of storytelling, but at the same time, when you are working for like months to years on a story that is not your favorite, and you're constantly being told that your ideas are not working and someone throws out your idea, which happens to a lot of artists, sometimes it gets a little bit discouraging. And that still definitely happens when you are working independently. However, I will say, at least like for the most part, big decisions are up to you when it comes to your projects. I would definitely say that to some degree my anxiety levels have lessened now that I don't have a full-time job and I can do things more on my own pace, time, without the concern of other people. Anyway, let's wait for that to just cook a bit. So I definitely feel like I've been talking a lot of great things about being an independent artist, and there's still like things I haven't really shared that are great about being a full-time artist, which I think deserves its spotlight. So I wrote them down here on my list. And of course, a lot of the full-time job pros are stability of the paycheck, which usually comes weekly or bi-weekly depending on your project. You have the stability of benefits like health insurance and a retirement plan. And these are the things I would say, of course, made it the hardest to kind of step back from working a full-time animation job, not just because I was kind of forced to because I wrapped on a project, but at the same time, it's like you do eventually find your own type of stability in being an independent artist, but just know that there might be like 3 to 6 months of an adjustment to get there. But I guess what I'm ultimately trying to say is that when you are working at a studio, you have more direct like teammates that you have and you'll be interacting with, and when you guys migrate to the next project, for the most part, a lot of people on the project you're on is most likely gonna migrate with you because you guys wrap around the same time. So those are just some of the things to keep in mind. Although when you are an independent artist, it is still easy to find a community as long as you make the effort to attend events that you find that are catered to your niche. I still try to go to animation events or get-togethers with folks that I've previously worked with or friends of friends that I've worked with. I will say this year's the only year I'm not going to Lightbox Expo though, because I am going on a trip as well next month. But I would say another thing that is good about working a full-time animation industry job or even any sort of illustration or art project is, for the most part, you're working on something that is a part of something bigger. Like, let's say if you're in animation, you work for a film or a TV show that will be on Netflix or on the movie screen. Or if you are working as an illustrator, maybe you're gonna have something that will show up in the New York Times. But as an independent artist, it's very much you're just creating your own thing and it's up to you to kind of market it. I will say that even when you work a full-time job, some companies and studios don't do the best at promoting projects that you're a part of and end up doing them dirty. But you know, at least when you're the artist with your own work, it's really up to you how much you want to market it and promote it. But this also does eventually kind of depend on your follower count, your level of engagement with your audience. But yeah, I guess that kind of does add to one of the cons about being an independent artist, is that followers and some sort of audience requirement does matter for you to have a certain outreach that you would want. Also, about working a full-time job, you do have wrap parties, which can be very fun. But I think after a few wrap parties, you kind of eventually also get the point, and then you're just like, okay, wrap parties are great. I think you'll understand what I mean after you work a few jobs and do a few wrap parties. Alexa, stop. Honestly, some of the pros at working at a studio full-time can be hard to resist. Like when I was at Netflix, there was free food all the time, a lot of parties and networking events, and those were the times where I felt like, you know, they were already provided to me, so I didn't put as much effort into finding these events myself. But ever since I've been working independently, a lot of my own life experiences are based on my own choice and decisions. So again, just to give full-time jobs in animation the benefit of the doubt, really working in animation has not been that bad of a corporate job at all when it comes to the level of strictness and how anal they are about you. Like, yes, again, you're gonna have your bad apples, your bad projects here and there, but just from my experience thus far, it's always been a very, as long as you get your work done, nobody cares what you do kind of situation. So especially after COVID, hybrid work has been fully more accepted, and some people honestly just never go back to the studio, I guess, including myself. And depending on whatever project you work on, you can just make your own time when you're there, especially as a storyboard artist honestly, life was kind of good at my previous job as a storyboard artist, because it's just like, first we were still working remotely and they let me work remote for pretty much the entirety of my time there. But for the most part, people will just assign you a script, be like, hey, just work on this, get it done by next Friday, and you can decide how you would like to approach this project until next Friday. The only cons, of course, is again meetings and just stuff that you might not really want to do on time that's not really your own. And you might still have to be on call for certain types of jobs, like a storyboard revisionist might be on call a little bit more than a storyboard artist. Definitely have lesser time to work on your personal projects, although, you know, for me, I found ways to squeeze it in empty pockets of time that I had. But you also risk the potential of, you know, getting your ideas thrown out on the project that you're on, which I already mentioned earlier. But also just keep in mind too that when you work a full-time job, stability also is still not guaranteed. I think one of the things that always bugged me about people was saying that if you are working a full-time job, you have more stability, and yeah, sure you do when it comes to certain areas, but at the same time, after we've seen things such as, you know, the strikes, the studio mergers, and so many projects being canceled, but even like tech layoffs and other industries having their own sorts of impacts. It's like, you know, during COVID, a lot of in-person types of jobs got really affected. So no matter where you go or what job you take, there is going to be something in life at some point that will affect it, that will make it be a little bit less stable for a certain period of time. But then again, that's just life, and that's why I kind of get annoyed when people are just like, oh, if you're an artist, it's unstable. If you're independent, it's unstable. Guess what? Life is unstable. So for this final stretch of the video, I figured why not pack with me and maybe come to Vancouver with me via video. If you want to see what I did in Vancouver, let me know. I don't really know if you guys care to see like travel vlogs or something like that. I think I tried making travel vlogs before in the past, and I just feel like it might not be y'all's things. Let me know, and maybe I'll try to find a way to make the travel vlog somewhat informational or useful to artists in some way, shape, or form. But either way, I'm gonna just pack for Vancouver, and while I pack, I will fill you guys in on the remainders of my thoughts for pros and cons of being an independent artist versus a full-time artist. At the end of the day, I would say the biggest struggle about becoming an independent artist from a full-time artist is the struggle of not really knowing how others view you from your previous industry. So especially coming from an animation industry where there's a very tight-knit community, it feels kind of weird to kind of be having one foot outside of it and one foot inside of it. I'm not really sure how people within, you know, my previous jobs or communities view me as, and a lot of people might just think that, you know, what I'm doing is stupid and shallow. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing about pursuing a path like this is learning to just not give a shit, because at the end of the day, even when I went back into the industry and worked a full-time job in animation, a lot of people asked why I don't just pursue this path, and those are the people that actually matter and will support you, and no matter where you go, there will always be haters. Otherwise, thank you for watching today's video. If you are interested in receiving a Patreon email consultation from me, currently, while all spots are filled at the time of this video being filmed, we do have one-off options available under the Patreon shop tab, so you don't really need to do like a recurring membership if you just want a one-time sort of consultation for any of your art goal needs or whatnot. But in the meantime, I shall be heading off to Vancouver, and I will see you all next week.